last year for Oregon football was magical up until the Rose Bowl because you had the Big Ten championship. You were undefeated in the regular season. Vibes were really, really good at Oregon a year ago. But when you look at what this year's squad, I think, is positioned to be, I'm not trying to promise they're going to win a national championship or go back-to-back in the Big Ten, but I do think you look at how they're positioned from last year to this year, you could make a case that this year's program is better positioned than the 2024 squad. We'll unpack that right now. Before we do it, though, if you're an Oregon fan, you're a college football sicko, make sure you're subscribed right here on 3 YouTube channel. Want y'all locked in. College football season, it's upon us. So to be as dialed in as possible, make sure you're subscribed. So here's my first point in all of this. In my opinion, the schedule that Oregon has this year is just overall more inviting than what last year's schedule was. Like, there's no Ohio State, there's no Michigan. You got a nice little runway of the Montana State game, Oklahoma State, which wasn't great last year, were the Cowboys, at Northwestern, Oregon State, before you even have to play Penn State. So there's a chance to kind of grease the wheels a little bit there. Your home games are Indiana and USC when it comes to the games that would make you nervous. Your toughest games are at Penn State and at Iowa. But when you take a step back and just look at the roadmap for Oregon as to how they could get back to the college football playoff, a lot of paths. Quite frankly, just a lot of paths. You could split your 2 toughest games in the games that I just mentioned, at Penn State, at Iowa. Maybe there's a toe step in there, maybe not, but 10-2, you're in. Let's go ahead and say worst case scenario. Let's say you drop both your toughest games. You lose at Penn State, you lose at Iowa. Still have a path to go 10-2 and be in the college football playoff. Like, there's a lot of paths, I think, to where Oregon could find their way in. I don't see them losing more than 2 games, just to keep it a buck with y'all. A big part of that, too, is just the linchpin the Dan Lanning culture is. Because look at what happened last year. You have the big win over Ohio State. It was awesome. I mean, Will Howard slides a little bit too late. You win the game. It's pandemonium in Autzen. And then we're all holding our breath, waiting for that letdown spot that happens in college football. These aren't professionals, contrary to what they're making from a dollars and cents perspective. These are still 18 to 22-year-olds. So they go to Purdue on a Friday night. After that big win, we're like, okay, this is the spot, little letdown. Can they handle it? 35-zip. Illinois, next week. Okay, this is a letdown spot, right? Because Illinois is pretty good. Brett Bielema, Luke Altmaier, they're feisty, they're scrappy, they're physical. 38-9 Ducks. At Michigan, 38-17. Maryland, 39-18. So you keep on going down the line here. And then the game that they actually looked a little bit lackluster in was the game at Wisconsin. That was your second to last game of the regular season. Hard to call that a letdown spot when you've played 1, 2, 3, 4 other games before that, where you handle business after the Ohio State game. So I say all that to say, I think that Dan Lanning culture element is still intact. A lot of these key staff pieces, still intact. The temperature, I think, is still set at the right spot. Now, yeah, there's some new pieces for sure. We'll talk about that in a second. But the quarterback piece, it's not Dylan Gabriel where you've played a ton of ball. It's not Bo Nix where you've played a ton of ball. But in regards to Dante Moore and how good I think he's going to be, we've said this a lot, but I'll say it again. He has much more runway to be successful and to have this offense fully installed mentally to have success from the jump for Oregon. And plus the ramp-up period I just mentioned. But like Dante Moore has had 2 springs and 2 fall camps by the time he starts his first game for Oregon. Dylan Gabriel had a spring. Bo Nix had a spring before he became the guy at Oregon. A spring in Will Stein's offense and a fall camp in Will Stein's offense. Like Dante Moore, in terms of getting up to speed in the system, way more runway. And to be honest, that's what it takes in the system. It's not an offense where you got to go, I say it a lot, throw the deep comeback to the field to be successful. You got to make all these high-level NFL throws. Dante Moore, I truly believe, can get into that part of his game, and that's a big reason why you get excited about what he brings to the table as a 5-star guy. But like playing quarterback at Oregon is just like being a good in-law on Christmas. Like, we don't need you to steal the show. We don't need you to make all the funny jokes and have everyone laugh. We need you to be efficient, be on time, play smart football, do the dishes. All right, we're making sure we're helping with dinner before we get rolling. Just be a good team player, know your role. Don't turn it over. Don't make any stupid jokes. Don't put your foot in your mouth. We're going to be okay. Because this roster now is, I think, the big question mark for a lot of folks that are maybe a little bit lukewarm on Oregon, and that's okay, but here's where I fall on this. It's still a Dan Lanning year 4 roster. On this roster right now, you have not 1 but 2 top 5 portal classes. You have 3 top 10 recruiting classes. 2 of those top 10 recruiting classes finished in the top 5. So just because there's not as many names that you're familiar with a Tez Johnson and Evan Stewart, you hope he's back healthy sooner rather than later, but you're waiting and seeing on that. There's still a lot of guys that I think are going to be national names by the time it's all said and done this year in Eugene. Like, I have tons of confidence in Kenyon Sadiq. I've talked about that ad nauseum. A ton of confidence in Mekhi Hughes, transfer from Tulane, who's going to be a dog for you in the backfield. Bear Alexander, heard great things about him so far in Eugene. Never been a matter of his physical ability, has it? Now you're in a spot where there's a tremendous culture to try to promote that more than ever before. I'm here for that. Mateo Uyunglele, it's his time to step up. So you keep on going down the line here. I really have a hard time looking at Oregon, looking at the schedule, looking at Dante Moore's story arc at Oregon and saying, yep, it's going to be a talent thing for them. Yep, but just you lost too much last year. Less proven, sure, less talented. With that schedule, with that culture, with Dan Lanning, like I'm thinking that this Oregon situation is potentially better than where they were a year ago. Maybe not definitively, maybe not obviously, but I think there's a case to be made. And for that reason, I'm still in on Oregon. Post Dylan Gabriel, post college football playoff run, post Big Ten title, all that. So, Oregon fans, comment section, let me know how you're feeling about your Ducks this year. Get at me on the socials, Instagram, Twitter, at JD PicKell. Still calling it Twitter, not X just yet. But with that being said, appreciate y'all, love y'all. Caden on the ones and the twos. We will see y'all next time.